Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Triple N Talk Show. I am Dr. Nik Nikam, and along with me, I have 4 engineers here. Oh Lord, what a majority! Here we have
and an architect.
And that's right, Vishal Merchant here next to me, and next to him is the president of American Society of Indian Engineers, Naresh Kohli, followed by Basav Raju, and next to him is one of the pioneers in the Sugarland area also and in our community, Dinesh Shah. We are going to talk about bullet trains. Is it time for bullet trains? Gentlemen, you are 4 engineers and I'm 1 doctor, so there is going to be a like that reminds me of when in the courtroom they announced Willie versus the state of Texas. He said, "Holy Lord, what a majority!" So, okay, you all start off, and then I will pose question as a citizen of Texas, and I've been a citizen of Texas for more than 30 years. So I will pose, my questions. Who wants to start off?
I can start off.
Yes.
Is that okay, Mr. President?
Yes.
Well, this is open discussion.
Okay. Sure. I mean, what do you want to know?
Tell us. I mean,
an overview. You want an overview?
Yeah.
First of all, just announce this upcoming event on that. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's do that, and then we will have a discussion.
Okay. Do you want to talk about the bullet train? Do you want to talk about that?
Event first.
I'll let Naresh do that, and then I'll get into the details.
We are going to. I'm Naresh Kohli. I'm the president of American Society of Indian Engineers and Architects, and also I work with a firm called Geotest Engineering. I'm a geotechnical engineer, and at the ASIE we are having a meeting. It's a technical presentation on September 21st at 6:30 to 8:30.
Where is
Texas.
it?
We haven't decided the place.
Oh, you have
yet.
okay. TBD.
One of the activists for the bullet train, Mr. Jeff Mosley, he's a TechStart commissioner, a former TechStart commissioner. He's going to be talking on the bullet train issue. So if you guys can attend that, if you mention the radio show, the event will be free for you guys.
There we go. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about the bullet train. This is still in the development stages, but still, we can have a debate about bullet trains. This bullet train is supposed to be from Houston to Dallas. So, give us an overview for me and the public as to what this entails. Then we'll look at the pros and cons.
Yeah, sure. I know that bullet train is something that is a nomenclature, as we call it in the layman's term, but what we are actually officially calling it is what we're calling the high-speed rail, which is modeled after the high-speed trains in Japan. The technology that's going to be used is, at least according to Texas Central Railway, which is a private organization who's actually spearheading the efforts on this. So, because I know there's been some confusion about whether this is going to be state-sponsored, like the one in California. But the California one, because they're Democrats over there, so they are sponsoring, the state is sponsoring it. But here it's going to be privately funded by an organization called Texas Central Railway. And like Naresh was saying a few minutes ago, Mr. Mosley, he's going to be one of the vice presidents of TCR, kind of spearheading some of the efforts. And the whole idea, the concept is that instead of driving for 4 hours or 4.5 hours or even 6 hours, depending on what happens on I-45, you would actually cut your commute if you wanted to get to Dallas from Houston, or if you wanted to come to Houston from Dallas. We are actually calling it Houston to Dallas because obviously we think that it should start here.
Yeah.
And the whole idea is that you can get there in 90 minutes.
90 minutes.
90 minutes, yes.
Okay, my first question is, I'm a taxpayer. Are you going to hit my pocketbook?
The whole idea is no. I think that's
that's like
I'm sure
like putting it in a political language.
I'm sure Mr. Mosley and David Havey have better answer, but based on what we know as a community, and I'll let these guys chime in. What we know so far is that the burden is going to be all privately. It's basically going to be investors that are going to fund the project. So there is not going to be a burden on the taxpayers at all.
So this is going to be like a private rapid transit system?
That is correct.
Okay.
Like
Let's
they're
hear from
calling
the-
it.
let's,
They're
hear
calling
from
it
the other
Southwest.
panelists
They're
before
calling
I-
it the Southwest Airlines on wheels. Yeah.
Well, we'll get
There's
to
a good
that.
description of that.
I have questions about
See,
that
see, for
line
a-
also.
See,
Okay.
when you get into the weeds of a project of this magnitude,
Yeah.
first of all, there's a lot of money involved. That goes without saying. It's quite the undertaking. Now, if I don't know much of the specifics of it, but projects like this are usually approached as a public-private partnership. So there is a burden on the taxpayer, in my opinion. However, it is a burden that if the project gets off the ground, if the project is beneficial, if they can take this private high-speed rail
Yeah.
and turn it around, make a lot of money, then there are bonds, there are ways of payments received upfront, there are guarantees that come back to the public. Another aspect of it is you can't expect to go all the way from Houston to Dallas without, running into a lot of obstacles. Some of the obstacles would be like having private property owners and your alignment is going through them. So now you're talking about eminent domain. The other hurdle, obviously, if you haven't heard about them, is called the Environmental Protection Agency. There's a lot of prairies here,
We heard about this Alaskan kiwi.
Yes, I mean, hey, the Keystone XL, right?
Yeah, Keystone.
So the bottom line is it's a really good concept. It's the kind of concept that has been implemented in emerging nations. As Raj mentioned earlier, Japan is absolutely known for these high-speed rails. However, again, the practicality of it, the legislative challenges of it, the fact that there will be a lot of eminent domain, and the fact that you never know on what side of this issue the Environmental Protection Agency is going to wind up on. It's one of those things, but it's definitely going to be a public-private
Let's
partnership.
hear from...
Yeah, real quick clarification I'm going to give it to Naresh. One thing they're trying to do is to avoid the whole eminent domain concept
yeah.
by actually asking landowners to donate the land
I see.
or either purchase it from them, depending on what they want
Yeah.
to do at market value, so that they don't have to worry
I see.
about. One of the things that I was sitting in a meeting a few weeks ago at the American Council of Engineering Companies. They had Alan Greer, the owner engineer, doing a presentation on it. And one of the things he had mentioned is that 60% of the route is going to be elevated
I see.
so that they could avoid some of the issues that Vishal was talking about.
Let's hear from...
I turn it on.
Don't tell it.
Keep it on.
So any project of this kind will have some
Yeah.
obstacles, definitely. So I believe most of it will be better for the better cause and the economic development. So if you save like 2 hours of travel time in one trip, so that's going to bring in a lot of jobs, new jobs, and also it's a good potential to relieve some congestion on the roads.
I thought being engineers, you get a lot of jobs, like Donald Trump says, anytime you start something, I thought you would be all for a railroad or any type of construction for that matter in Texas. Let's hear from Dinesh.
Yeah.
Then we'll get to some of the questions and cons of any project for that matter.
Well, as you know, that this is a very large project and it will include a lot of discipline: electrical, mechanical, engineering, civil engineering, structural engineering, roads, soil testing. Lots of people will be involved in that. But the main thing I want to talk to you talk about public-private partnership.
Yeah.
I think when Tom Dillon was here, he brought $65 million for the airport, Sugarland Airport, plus thousands of $millions for the road. And so we have lots of federal money. We are getting it from the gas tax for the gasoline taxes, about 38 cents right now per gallon.
Mm-hmm.
So we can bring that money, and that will be helpful for this bullet train also.
How many jobs it may create, you think?
Yeah, one thing they were talking about, and I was going to answer both your question and then what Naresh and Dinesh were saying. One of the things that I noted down the other day is that they were saying that it's going to create $10 billion in investment, $36 billion in direct impact, $2.5 billion in tax revenue, and 40,000 jobs that are going to include 1,000 jobs for train operations
You
itself.
can't write up all those things, can you? I mean, especially in this economy where the whole election is based on bringing jobs to America. Okay, here's the next question.
No, it is going to create a lot of jobs,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
And you said you can from here you can go to Dallas in 90 minutes? And
Correct.
The plane takes Southwest Airlines or any airlines for that matter.
It could be 90 minutes at the gate, depending on the day.
Okay. So if it's 90 minutes, the plane can take you there in 45 minutes. But in both cases, you're talking about just one part or one leg of the journey from your house to your final destination, which may be a business entity or a hotel room. How much time do you think you're really going to save?
So another really important point to consider, whether it's airline travel or whether it's a bullet train. The bottom line is, like you mentioned, you still got to get out of the house. You got to take your car to parking spot if you're trying to take a flight to Dallas from Houston. You transition from your car, you catch a transit bus, you go to the airport, you get in the plane, you board the plane. Either somebody is picking you up in Dallas or you're going to go get a rental car. You know, so there's a lot of legs to a journey like that. Similarly, there's a lot of legs to a journey. Let's just say that if this high-speed rail was to come to fruition, similar legs of journey exist. So the bottom line is, when you reach your destination, whether you're going from Houston to Dallas or whether you're coming from Dallas to Houston, there is a little bit of a transit problem. Now, when we talk about Texas, you know, the place that we're in, the economy has been good enough, middle income jobs have been fair enough to where most every people that we know of here has a car. You know, they get from point A to point B. A lot of people prefer to take a journey from Houston to Dallas or from Dallas to Houston just by their car, taking the I-45 corridor, in which case they always have their primary mode of transportation with them, which you cannot duplicate with the airplane or which you cannot duplicate with this beautiful project that we're talking about.
Yeah, but you know, along the same argument, people are still flying to Dallas every day, going from their home to the airport, parking the car, sitting in the airport for 45 minutes to an hour. We are already doing that, so it is nothing new.
So the bottom line is
about security at the gates and how long that's going to take.
So the bottom line is, the question is, and that's definitely something that the private investors need to consider is, all right, how many of these people that are currently going to the Hobby Airport or the George Bush Airport right now, making this constant journey from Houston to Dallas and from Dallas to Houston, how many of those people do they think, for their business purposes, they will have changed their primary mode of transportation? Because I do believe there's a lot of people that are engaged in this route, or else we won't have so much air traffic that we have between the two cities. So again, it's a logistical question. Again, it's a question of what is the payback period on the project. You know, when we say $10 billion, I mean, it's easy to throw out, but it seems like a lot of money.
No, that's an investment dollar, not the cost of the project. But anyway, but your point is well taken. I think one thing I was going to say to kind of piggyback on that, or to maybe kind of look at it from a different way. You're right. And the one thing they have to think about and talk about is when you get off the train, what do you do, right? And that's the question. I think that's what you're trying to get to.
Yeah.
You know, and then in Dallas, what they're saying is, you know, they always say, you know, Dallas has its act together, but that's not really true because in Dallas, yes, it's going to go to a primary transit center, which is much closer to downtown Dallas. And it's going to be hopefully a better transition, connectivity to some of the local transportation. But one thing that TCR is grappling with on the Houston side is that the high-speed train can only come to what we are calling it the Northwest Transit Center, or not necessarily the Northwest Transit Center, but a northwest portion of Houston, which is 290 and 610. So there are two things that they've been talking about. One thing they're saying is, if you bring the train all the way to downtown, obviously that's going to be very, that's a lot of impact, a lot of challenge. That's what Vishal was trying to get to. But one thing TCR has been talking about is two things. One, connect from wherever the high-speed train stops to the Northwest Transit Center, which actually exists today, and make a lot of improvements at the Northwest Transit Center. You know, could be retail, could be, you know, cab rentals, could be car rentals, whatever, you know, parking garages, whatever that makes it reasonable for people to get off. And then the whole idea is, you know, one thing they've been talking about, the focus is, you know, what do we do to connect to downtown? But the argument is, if the train is going to carry, each train is going to carry 400 passengers, well, not all 400 of them want to go to downtown. You know, there could be about, you know, 25 or 30% of them, but what happens to the other ones? So I think the real
But
question is...
unfortunately, we don't have a good metro system in this city to get from point...
that is very true.
The terminal to your business location.
That is very true, but the good thing is, one of the chatter that I've been hearing in the last couple of months, and Mayor Turner talked about it at the State of Mobility, and I've actually attended the Greater Houston Partnership discussion where the new Metro Chair, Patman, was talking about the same thing. And then we also have TxDOT, the district engineer for TxDOT, the Texas Department of Transportation. And then we also have City of Houston. So right now we actually have and the local MPO, which is the Houston Galveston Area Council. So the good news, I think, for us, and then Harris County, of course. So we got 5 stakeholders that are heavily engaged with this conversation, meaning TxDOT, City of Houston, Harris County, the MPO, and who did I miss? No, anyway, I guess those are pretty much the agencies that are involved in trying to solve this problem so that they can figure out, how do we connect, how do we move, because I think it's very important for our region to make it work.
This is the election season and everybody says the bottom line is the voter, all right? So it is the people who are going to use this transit in place of their own personal cars or maybe airlines. Have they done a study as how many people travel from Houston to Dallas or from Dallas to Houston in a 24-hour period or in a month? And how many of them are going to switch?
I just said just one little thing. It is going to go via Cyprus and College Station also.
Yeah,
that will make a difference.
Well, I guess, actually, to clarify, there is no stop in College Station. So what they're going to do is what they call it, the Brazos Valley stop, which is another point of contention because it really doesn't go through College Station. Yeah. Because they were going to have a lot of impacts, right-of-way impacts. So they actually had to shift the corridor a little bit eastward to a particular stop that's called the Brazos Valley Center. Yeah. So if you live in College Station, if you're one of the students, you want to come to Houston, you would still have to take the bus or a car or a carpool ride to get to the stop and then hop on board. Because by doing so, they were saying that TCR basically says that you're going to save a lot of, first of all, cost and right-of-way issues and a lot of headache in terms of trying to get the project executed.
How much cost they're going to save from a plane ticket, which is maybe you can get it for $79 or so if you plan in advance?
Yeah, before you go there, real quick, I think Naresh was going to answer your question about how many people.
Yes, go ahead.
Travel. Yeah.
So right now, I think the estimation is about 50,000 people travel between Dallas and Houston every week.
Super commuters, right?
Yeah. It's a super commuter.
Yeah. So is that enough to, like he said, to get a return on investment? I mean, I know you're going to create jobs, you're going to generate taxes, and this is good for taxes, and this may be the beginning of a mass transit, not only from Dallas to Houston and Houston to Dallas, but maybe from Houston to San Antonio and Austin, because every other developed country in the world, like France, Europe, Japan, everywhere they have mass transit. Even Northeast, they have mass transit. You cannot survive in New York without mass transit.
Oh, you can.
Okay.
To answer that question, Dr. Nikam, especially as Texans, we are used to cars.
Pickup trucks.
And the pickup trucks. So it's our pride. It's kind of a little bit hard to get rid of those things as of right now. But once you see the convenience, probably right now you can see the mega bus going from Houston to Dallas. A lot of people, they hop on the bus and then they turn on their laptops and do their work.
One of the things. Let me make a point about that. Going to Dallas in a bus, I looked at, there are maybe 2 or 3 bus agencies that are available. Mm-hmm. They would take anywhere from 6 to 7.5 hours from Sugar Land to get to my final destination. So I don't know if I really want to take a bus because I don't want to spend a whole day just going from Houston to Dallas.
See, that's the point we're trying to make. Like, you want to take a bus, but there is not a viable option. So if this is built, so you see the convenience, so you want to avoid the hassle of driving. So that will help us in saving a lot of time, and then it makes it enjoyable ride for you.
What about other states like California, which is similar to Texas, or even, I mean, of course, Florida, you don't have much, this one, traffic. California, do they have anything like this, or any other state where we can use as a model, at least to project revenue or, I mean, the number of people who might be traveling?
Yeah, sure. No, before I answer, real quick to kind of piggyback on what Naresh said, one thing we've been talking about is the business traveler, but I think we also need to think about the weekend travelers, because there is a lot of people who want to go to Dallas or come to Houston for weekend activities. So I think that is another demographic that can be catered to as part of this conversation. Of course, not to mention the students.
Yeah.
So to kind of answer your question right now, yes, the good news I think for Texas and for high-speed rail in Texas is that we do actually have, well, it's a two-part answer, because one, we have had a setback recently. I think some of you have heard about it, meaning one of the things that TCR was trying to do is work with the federal government and have the Federal Railroad Administration, FRA, kind of give us some guidance on how to do it. But unfortunately, they said, well, it's really up to the state of Texas to do it. So now the onus is all back on the state of Texas to do it. But the good news is we do actually have a very good example, a parallel example that's happening right now, which is actually ahead of us, which is the California high-speed rail. The good news there is that that is a funded project by the government.
Yeah.
So the state of California is completely behind it, it's backing it, they're finding the money for it. There is obviously a private-public partnership interest in there. But one of the good things I think, well, a couple of good things can happen to us in Texas because of that is, one, we could hopefully end up using the guidelines, because remember, this is first time you're doing it, so you got to have guidelines to do it.
Yeah.
You know, how fast do we operate? What is the frequency? You know, how many people? You know, what are the things, the technological aspects of it? So hopefully we can get some guidance from them on that. And the second thing we also can get guidance is on technology, meaning the actual trains, the actual locomotives, the actual cars that'll carry the people. You know, what is the latest and greatest in that, and what is going to work for us? Of course, the terrain is different. You know, California terrain is going to be mountainous, and here it's going to be more plains. So we can think about some of those things. But I believe personally is that we do have a good example in California that we can piggyback on and hopefully accelerate some of the.
You know, as far as technology is concerned, I don't see that as a problem. You know, they have installed rapid transit in India.
Yes.
So I don't see a problem in implementing a rapid transit between Houston and Texas, where the land is pretty flat, more or less, to speak. The question is, how many different levels of bureaucracies are involved here, and how many years are we talking about before I can sit in the train and say, okay, let me look at my laptop or go to take a nap and wake up in Dallas?
I mean, it's like with anything else.
Yeah.
The bureaucracy is pretty much a top-down bureaucracy. We're talking about, like Raj has mentioned earlier, you know, there's involvement from the federal level. Right now, the conversation degenerates into who's going to come up with the standards, who's going to come up with the codes. For instance, you try to do a small job in the city of Houston. Let's just say we go outside and we want to change a concrete pavement. It takes a lot. It's a really easy job as an engineer to conceive it, to design it, right? But it in itself becomes a whole nother task for such a small job to just go through a bureaucracy that is set up for, let's just say, oh, we got to get it reviewed and get it permitted. So when we talk about small jobs like that, you already see what the problem is. And now we're talking about getting multiple agencies involved. All the agencies that, Raj named earlier. Along with that, the public-private partnership, right? And maybe Dinesh, you can speak a little bit to it, because he definitely has some experience with that. The bottom line is, yes, it's easy to come out and say that it's a private project. That you can do that up front, and that's a good salesman's sales pitch. But when you have a public-private partnership, there is definitely taxpayer dollars involved. Now, I'll give you a few examples. I come from India, from the city of Bombay. Yeah. We decided a few years back that we were going to build a metro rail system snaking through the entire city, going from north to south. Now, we had all the east and west railroad transportation already in place. The project was estimated to take about 3 years, all right? Fast forward to today, it's been about 15 years, I think it finally opened. The bottom line is, everybody that had invested in that project at some point or another, as a private investor, got out. And what happens in a public-private partnership, which is really very eminent in India, is they got out and they all became rich. The project did not go anywhere. So you're talking about a lot of risk. Now, I don't know how many checks and balances they would have here. And again, the question of eminent domain is easy to say that we're going to go up front and negotiate and we're going to buy the land. But the amount of land that we're talking about, the different kinds of corridors that we're exploring, that's a lot of negotiation. So I don't know if I answered that question in a roundabout way or not, but it's a big challenge.
How many years are we talking? Assuming that everything gets a green go, how many years are we talking?
Yeah, the estimate is that if everything goes well, and I totally agree with what Vishal was saying, that there is a lot of ifs and buts involved. But if everything goes well in an ideal environment, and all the protocols get together, everything is done, the whole idea is that they would put people on the train by 2024 to 2025.
This is 2016, so you're talking almost 8 to
8 to 9 years.
8 to 9 years. Yeah. You see, I'm a very optimistic person. I built this studio being a cardiologist.
That's amazing.
So that should tell you how optimistic I am. I believe in optimism. Otherwise, John F. Kennedy would not have said we're going to put a man on moon when he didn't even have a rocket.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the technology is there. We have a perfect flat land to, level those tracks and all these things. The question is, how is it going to make a difference for a traveler or a business person from what we have now? And is this a part of a larger plan of having rapid transit all across Texas?
That's a great point, because you're right. I mean, if you just fix one of the corridors, and as we all call it, as we all know it, the whole golden triangle with Dallas and Austin and San Antonio and back to Houston. Because interestingly, some of us know that the original high-speed train concept was going to be between Houston and San Antonio. Yeah. But then, just looking at demand and looking at everything, I think at that time it was because I-10, the corridor of I-10, the whole idea was going to be in the median of I-10. So it was going to be like a clean system, and you could just do it all the way out. Yeah. So, no ifs and buts about it. But obviously, when they looked at the overall demand, they said, what is the most obvious choice to pick? And that's when the Dallas to Houston or Houston to Dallas came to play. But to kind of answer Vishal's concern a little bit, in my opinion, I think if they went private, like they're saying they would, like all the airline industry has, you actually have a better chance of making it happen, because obviously it's all private money, so you don't have to worry about some of the strings attached with the taxpayer money, and then kind of move forward. So we'll see how that goes, though.
Let's get a final word from Dinesh, a more matured and
final word,
more experienced opinion.
Well, first of all, it's a vision.
Yeah.
So these people have vision, definitely, that won't do the project otherwise. And the next thing is the necessity is mother of invention. And the prime example is Bell to 8.
Yeah.
I know that people were talking, when we are talking about right now, bullet train, same thing people are talking. Right now, you see the Bell to 8 is completely flooded.
And the most fascinating thing is there's a toll of 50 cents or 75 cents every street, I should say, and nobody questions. They take Bell to 8.
Right. It will be the same thing for bullet trains, believe me.
But I think if we do it to get more traction, we probably need all across the state to tie all the corners, like you said, the triangle.
That's correct. This is just a beginning.
Okay.
So another thing to consider, and we probably didn't talk about this, we got to also look at the safety aspect of it. When you got something traveling, 200 miles per hour?
That is correct.
I mean, you got to think about that for sure. Now, I know that it's in implementation in Japan. I know India is making strides with it. But again, it's one of those things, because it requires a lot of upkeep.
Most part it is going to be elevated, so.
Yeah, 60% of it is elevated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the reason they went with the 60% elevated is to kind of negate some of the issues. Yeah. Because the whole idea is that when you go through 10,000 acres of land and you have a lot of cattle, who does you cut across to the other side? Because remember, cattle is very important in Texas. So they need to get where they need to get to. So, I mean, in all seriousness, they were saying that's
so you're not going to replace one industry with another one.
That is correct, yeah. Well, at least hopefully that's the point.
Dr. Nikam, have you heard about cow tipping? Do you know what cow tipping is? Yeah. Can you imagine if this train was to take that route, if it was ever built, and it went through these great pastures with all of these cattle? Cows sleep standing. right? Cows sleep standing. And this thing goes by and it makes the noise that makes all the cattle will just be falling.
Well, we have rapid transit in India where, not only cows, people will be crossing there without any consideration of an oncoming train. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you have been listening to bullet train pros and cons from ordinary citizens. At least these are all, qualified engineers. I'm just an ordinary taxpayer, so I hope this has been informational to you. And if you would like to know more about, maybe Naresh can tell us, where your meeting is going to be next week, right? Yeah,
It's September 21st.
Yeah.
It's on September 21st.
Maybe they can just contact a phone number or an email, and then you let them know where the location is going to be.
You can email us at asiehouston@gmail.com. We can send you more information on that. And then we are working on the logistics for the location, but the date is September 21st from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m.
With that note, ladies and gentlemen, we would please request you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and also visit our Facebook page, which is NNN Media, where we bring you the latest buzz, something like what we are talking today, and we will see you next time. Thank you very much for watching. And thank you very much, gentlemen, for
Thank you, Dr.
this
Nikam.
Thank you.
Absolute honor.
discussion, slightly tangent from cardiology.
Yes.
We have something for you to surprise item for you.
Oh,
Yeah, we have some surprise.
oh, thank you.
We're going to surprise you, Dr. Nikam.
All right, it's over there.
Here you go. Surprise for me too.
Oh, thank you
Dr.
so
Nikam,
much.
We want to present the token of appreciation for your efforts in bringing us together.
Thank you so much, and we will see you next time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching.